In today's class, we are going to discuss the permanent tissues. Okay, like in the last class, I have given you an overview about what kind of tissues makes up the plant body, and they are mainly of two types: meristematic and permanent, isn't it? Meristematic tissues are made up of cells which are called meristematic cells, which are in continuous state of division. They continuously divide and add cells to the plant body, thereby allowing the plants to have indefinite or unlimited growth, isn't it? Now, the cells which are being produced by the meristems, they eventually would stop to divide. Okay, they will stop dividing and they would then take up a specific shape to perform a specific function. Now, what is the meaning of that? See, you know about or you have learned about various types of cells which are present in our body, right? Like our RBC is disc shaped, our nerve cells are very long and elongated, isn't it? So this long shape of the nerve cell, suppose, do you think the conduction of impulses would have been possible by the nerves if they would not have been elongated? Right? Likewise, can the RBC be, carrying so much of oxygen without that specific disc shape? No, right? So in that case, every cell which has a specific shape, only because of that specific shape, it is able to perform a specific function. Do remember that, fine? So now back to the meristems. What I was telling you is that meristems continuously divide and give rise to cells. These cells eventually will stop to divide, take up a specific shape, and then start performing a specific function. When this happens, that a cell takes up a specific shape and a function, we call the cells to be permanent cells or mature cells. Okay, and the phenomena of bringing permanency or maturity to the cell is called differentiation. So it is then that we say that the cell is differentiated, or in short we say that whenever a cell has a specific shape and performs a specific function and do not divide, we call such cells to be differentiated cells. Understood that? Fine. So in that case, today we are going to discuss all about the permanent cells, and when permanent cells, they would communicate they will get together and coordinate with one another to perform a function or a set of functions that would make up a unit that's called the permanent tissue. Understood? A group of permanent cells, when gets together to work together, that is known as a permanent tissue. Okay, so with all that discussion, main points what you have to remember is that plant body basically consists of two types of tissues, meristematic and permanent. Meristematic tissues, they continuously divide and add cells to the plant body, okay, thereby allowing the plant to have unlimited growth. Now, eventually, the cells which are being produced by the meristems would stop to divide. They will take up a specific shape and start performing a specific function. It is at that time we will call the cells to be differentiated cells or permanent cells or mature cells. Understood? And when permanent cells get together and behave as a unit to perform a function or a set of function, we will obviously then call it permanent tissues. Understood? Clear? Fine. So in the plant body, there are two types of permanent tissues present. First is simple permanent tissues, that is the tissues which are made up of only one type of cell, and then complex permanent tissues which are made up of more than one type of cell. So first we will be discussing simple permanent tissues, which again can be of three types: parenchyma, cholenchyma and sclerenchyma. Okay, so before we move further into details, just let me read it out to you. So first of all, new cells formed by division of meristems eventually become structurally and functionally spatialized and lose the ability to divide. They are then termed as permanent or mature cells. Alright? And tissues formed by these cells are called permanent tissues. Is that clear? Now, next. Permanent or mature tissues helps to form the body of the plant. So basically the meristems would keep adding cells to the plant body, but the basic structure or organs inside the plant body would be formed by permanent or differentiated cells. Alright. Next. This phenomena leading to the maturation of plant cells is called differentiation. It's a very, very important term. The entire chapter we will keep on using these terms. So do remain clear about them. Alright. Next. Hence, meristematic cells, they differentiate to form permanent cells. Okay. Very clear about it, right? Differentiation is a very, very important word that you need to be clear about. Next, now classification of permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are of two types. As I have already told you, they are of two types. First is simple permanent tissue we are going to discuss. So it is made up of one type of cells which are structurally similar and coordinate with one another to perform a common function. Alright. And the simple permanent tissues are again of three types: parenchyma, cholenchyma, sclerenchyma. Each of them will have their distinct features. All of them will have distinct functions. Alright. So let us discuss them in details. Now let us start with parenchyma tissues. Now first of all, parenchyma tissues are simple permanent tissues which forms the bulk of the plant body. So that means most of the part of the plant body would be made up of parenchyma. Okay, you can name any part like root, stem, leaf, flower, fruit, seed. Every part consists of parenchyma. Alright. Another important thing is that parenchyma cells, okay, parenchyma tissues are made up of parenchymatous cells, isn't it? And parenchymatous cells are living cells. So why am I telling living cells likewise? Why is it a distinctive feature? That's because when the cells are being formed by the meristems, initially all cells are alive. They are living, means they have the living matter, that is protoplasm. But eventually, a few cells, after gaining maturity, they might lose their protoplasm and they might convert dead. Okay, so dead cells are also present in the plant body. So hence, being alive or being a living cell becomes a differentiation here. So do remember, parenchyma cells or parenchyma tissue is made up of living cells. Okay. Other than that, there are other features also, like parenchyma. It is isodiametric in nature, means all the cells that makes up the parenchyma tissue, they are similar in diameter. Isodiametric means similar in diameter. Understood? But they can be of various shapes. They can be spherical, they can be oval, they can be elongated, they can be polygonal. Polygonal means having various ends or various corners. Okay? So they can be of various shapes, but then when they form a tissue, the cells will all be alike and they will be all isodiametric. Understood? Finally, also remember that the main function of parenchyma would be storage. Wherever in the plant body parenchyma is present, there has to be some or the other thing being stored there. That storage can be in the form of carbohydrate, it can be proteins, it can be various other stuff. But storage is the main function of parenchyma. Understood this? Fine. So let us read it out then. See. The parenchyma tissue forms the major component with its various organs of the plant and is present in all of them, like root, stem, leaf, fruits, flowers and seeds. It forms the bulk of the plant body. That is very, very important. Parenchymatous cells are living cells, that is, they do not lose their protoplasm at maturity. Then parenchymatous cells are also isodiametric, similar in diameter, and may be of various shapes like spherical, oval, polygonal and elongated in shape. They are also thin-walled. Okay, this is something again very distinctive about the parenchymatous cells. Not all cells in the plant body possess thin cell wall. Okay, but about parenchyma, these are living cells with very thin and elastic or flexible cell wall, and the cell wall is made up of cellulose. Okay, so thin walled and the walls are made up of cellulose. Next, cells in the parenchyma tissue may be closely packed with no or small intercellular space. So finally, the tissues are mostly, sometimes you can say closely packed, or sometimes they may be having a little bit of intercellular space. So in that case, packaging will vary from one part of the plant to another. Okay. Last of all, functions. The primary function I have already told you, main function. If you hear parenchyma, you have to remember it is all about storage. So primary function would be storage. But other than that also there are a few functions which are as follows. Storage of food is the main function of parenchyma. Photosynthesis. Now certain parenchyma cells, they might possess chloroplast. In case they possess chloroplast, they would be able to undergo photosynthesis. Okay, so as you know already, chloroplast is the site for photosynthesis. These are green color plastids which allows photosynthesis to take place, isn't it? So in that case, if a parenchyma possesses chloroplast, then it will perform photosynthesis. And then we will call such parenchyma cells to be chlorenchyma. Alright, fine. Next, secretion. As because parenchyma cells, they are meant for storage, so they sometimes will store various substances, and hence will be also allowing secretions like various secretions like resin, nectar, oil, etc. Alright. Last of all is erenchyma. Now, erenchyma are certain specialized parenchyma cells found in only hydrophytes or aquatic plants. This particular parenchyma cells, they possess large air cavities which stores air. Okay, and as because these parenchyma cells, they have large cavities and they are storing air, so that's why they will help the plant to remain afloat, or they will help the plant to maintain its buoyancy. Okay, so that's how the hydrophytes will be helped because of the presence of the parenchyma, which will allow it to remain afloat on the surface of water. Okay, so such parenchyma cells which have large air cavities in them, these parenchyma cells are called erenchyma. Alright, so this is all about parenchyma cells, their basic characteristics and function. Next, let us discuss chlorenchyma. Now let us discuss chlorenchyma. So first thing about chlorenchyma is that it's a living mechanical tissue. Okay. Now, living mechanical tissue, why are we calling it so? That's because there is another mechanical tissue in plant as well, that is sclerenchyma, the third type of simple permanent tissue. But sclerenchyma are dead. So in comparison to sclerenchyma, this chlorenchyma is going to be a living mechanical tissue. Okay. Now, why mechanical? See, the plant body, most of the plants, they possess aerial erect stems, isn't it? That means they stand upright by holding on to the soil or their substratum, right? Now, if suppose the plant body is too rigid, okay, plant body has to maintain rigidity so that it can stand erect. But then if it is too rigid, don't you think, due to the action of wind, the plant won't be able to bend, rather it will break down, right? Likewise, also in case the plant body is too flexible, in that case it again will have a problem, like it will not be able to stand upright, right? So both way it is a problem. Too much of flexibility will not let it remain upright. Too much of rigidity will not allow it to bend. Rather, it will break due to the action of wind. So that's why there has to be a balance. There has to be a kind of, balance that has to be present in the plant body to maintain rigidity and flexibility. Okay, both has to be in some kind of a balance so that the plant can stand upright also, and it can bend also when there is too much of, strong wind blowing, right? And that balance is brought about by chlorenchyma cells. So they will provide flexibility to the plant body, and hence they are leaving the cells making up the chlorenchyma tissue. They are having living matter, that is the protoplasm. So these cells are living cells. So living and because it provides flexibility, that's why it is mechanical. So hence we say cholenchyma are living mechanical tissue. Understood this? Fine. This is the most important part. Another important part that you have to remember is that in cholenchyma, the cells may be of different shapes like spherical, oval, polygonal, etc. But then there is an important difference between cholenchyma and parenchyma here. Like you have come to know, parenchyma, the cell wall is made up of thin cellulose, isn't it? But in case of cholenchyma, at the corners of the cell, okay, the corners of the cell wall in cholenchyma, apart from cellulose, another two substances also remain deposited, that is hemicellulose and pectin. So in that case, the cell wall of cholenchyma is made up of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, and that would make their cell much more rigid, and that is itself going to help the cholenchyma to provide mechanical support to the plant body. That's why living mechanical tissue again. Okay, so cell wall's composition is very, very essential here, because that is finally going to allow the function of cholenchyma. Okay, and the last most important thing about cholenchyma that I must mark here is that cholenchyma is only and only present in the dicots. It is not present in the monocots. Okay, so do remember these three important points. First, cholenchyma is living mechanical tissue. Second, cholenchyma possesses cell wall made up of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, which helps it to give or provide mechanical support to the plant. And the third, the cholenchyma is only present in dicots, it's absent in monocots. Alright, so now let us read out the other features as well. See, first thing, it is an elastic living mechanical tissue. It may be oval, spherical or polygonal in shape. Intercellular space is absent, so they are very, very closely packed. Alright, next, it is in the corners of the cells, thickenings of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin develops, due to which the cell wall becomes thick at the corners. Okay, next, cholenchyma occurs in 3 to 4 layers below the epidermis in dicot plants. Now see, the outer skin, the part of the plant body that you can directly touch, okay, that outer skin of the plant body is called epidermis. So in dicot plants, I've already told you it's not present in monocot. So in dicot plants, exactly where cholenchyma would be present? Just below the epidermis. So just below the outer skin of the plant body, in dicot plants, cholenchyma would be present in 3 to 4 layers. Now these layers may be continuous without any break, they may be continuously, homogeneously, formed, or else sometimes they may be discontinuous as well and formed in patches. Okay, so see, it is found as either homogeneous or continuous layer, or it may be formed as patches discontinuously. Alright, next, cholenchyma is absent in monocots. That's a very, very important point that you should remember. And last is certain cholenchyma cells would possess chloroplast, and by now you already know, if a cell possesses chloroplast, of course it will help in photosynthesis. Alright. So last is functions. So it is a living mechanical tissue which provides mechanical support to the plant part. So as I have told you, it will be helping the plant to maintain a kind of flexibility in the plant body, which will be providing rigidity to the plant body, but apart from that also would help maintain the flexibility, so that the plant would be able to bend and it will not break down due to the action of wind. So it is going to provide mechanical support to the plant parts like young stem or petiole of the leaf, and it resists bending of the stem or tearing of the leaves due to the action of wind. Finally, if it possesses chloroplast, so it will help in photosynthesis as well. Okay, so this is all about cholenchyma. The last one that we discuss is sclerenchyma. Finally, let's discuss sclerenchyma, the last simple permanent tissue. First thing about sclerenchyma that you should mark is that sclerenchyma are dead tissues. Okay, the sclerenchymatous cells which makes up the sclerenchyma tissue are all dead. That means they at maturity would lose all their protoplasm or the living matter. Okay, and their main function would be to provide mechanical support to the plant body. Now, how would they provide mechanical support? That's because of a special kind of cell wall deposition. Okay. Now, you know very well parenchyma, the cell wall is made up of thin cellulose, whereas this parenchyma, the cell wall is made up of cellulose, hemicellulose and pectin, isn't it? That will also provide rigidity to the cell wall. But then about sclerenchyma, their cell wall is made up of cellulose, hemicellulose and a very specialized deposition that's called lignin. Okay, so because of lignified deposition, the cell wall of sclerenchyma cells would become so very thick that the cells would become very rigid, and when they are themselves rigid, whichever part of the plant body would possess sclerenchyma would obviously become rigid itself, and hence it will be allowing mechanical support. It will be allowing the plant parts to remain erect and to allow the plant to stand upright in the substratum, or in short we say they provide mechanical support to the plant body. Understood? So what are the two things you mainly remember? First, sclerenchyma is made up of dead cells because they lose their protoplasm. Next, the sclerenchyma provides mechanical support to the plant body. How? Because they have thick lignified cell wall. Understood this? Fine. So now let's see further in details. Sclerenchyma is a Greek word meaning hard tissue. So the meaning itself is hard tissue. Now, important features are sclerenchyma consists of dead cells. They lose protoplast at maturity. Next, cells are elongated and narrow and possess highly thickened cell wall. Okay, the cell wall would be very thick. So thick sometimes that the the lumen of the cell will be absent, or lumen of the cell will be greatly reduced. Now you might be thinking, what is lumen? See, suppose this is a cell. Okay, this is how we make the normal or typical cell, isn't it? It consists of a cell membrane, it consists of cytoplasm, and suppose this is the nucleus, right? Cell wall is optional. It's present in the plants, it's absent in the animals, right? Now, inside this cell membrane, that is the outer boundary of the cell, this whole area inside is called lumen. Okay? Fine. Now suppose if I say that the cell possesses a cell wall, okay? Possesses a cell wall, and the cell wall is very thick. So thick that now the cell appears like this. This whole thing, suppose, is the cell wall. If the whole thing is the cell wall, that means what? Where is the lumen? Is there the lumen present anymore? Due to so thick the cell wall, the lumen, don't you think, is greatly reduced, or it is almost not there, almost obliterated, isn't it? Like that is going to be the situation in case of sclerenchyma cells. The cells are dead, so protoplasm is anyways not present, right? So the cell wall is so very thick that the lumen of the cell is almost absent. Understood this point? Fine. Now, so cell wall is made up of cellulose, hemicellulose and lignin. That is very important a point. Alright. Then, cell wall may possess one or many pits. Now that is another important thing. Now suppose this is a sclerenchyma cell. This whole thing is the cell wall. Lumen is almost absent. Now at certain places, okay, in the sclerenchyma cells, at certain places, cell wall deposition might not be there. Okay, suppose if you imagine a wall, it's made up of bricks, isn't it? At one part, suppose a brick is lost. So what will be formed? A pore, a hole, isn't it? So likewise, in the sclerenchyma cells also, at certain places, cell wall deposition is absent. So what will be formed there? There will be a gap that will be formed, isn't it? And this gap is called pit. Got it? So in that case, the sclerenchyma cells, they possess thick cell wall, and the cell wall may possess one or many pits. Understood? Fine. So now the main part. See, sclerenchyma can be again of two types. There are two types of sclerenchyma cells present. That is sclerenchymatous fibers, which are like this, narrow and elongated with pointed ends. Okay. Whereas there is another one that's called sclerids, which are like this, circular or spherical to subspherical with very thick cell wall. This whole thing is the cell wall. This is the small lumen. Okay, and these branch-like structures that you're seeing, these are all pits. So numerous pits are present. Okay. Now let's see what are their features. Sclerenchymatous fibers, they are elongated cells. As you can see, they are narrow and elongated with pointed ends. Their elongated and narrow shape makes them look like fibers. So because they are narrow and elongated, that's why we call them sclerenchymatous fibers. They look like fibers. Okay. Then the cell wall is highly thickened due to lignin deposition. That's going to be, a universal feature of sclerenchyma, be it sclerenchymatous fiber or sclerids. They mostly occur in groups or bundles and remain associated with xylem and phloem. That's very important. Sclerenchymatous fibers are mainly found along with, or rather remain associated with, xylem and phloem, the conducting tissues. Okay, the tissues which will be allowing like substances to be transported inside the plant body. As you already know, xylem transports water and minerals, phloem would transport organic solute or food, isn't it? So these sclerenchymatous fibers would remain associated with both xylem and phloem, providing them mechanical support. Now, they provide mechanical support to the organs that possess them. So, as I told you, see, sclerenchyma itself means, sclerenchyma means mechanical support. Just like parenchyma means storage, isn't it? So sclerenchyma itself means mechanical support. So wherever sclerenchyma would be associated, do remember there mechanical support would be present or mechanical support would be provided by them. Alright, fine. Next about sclerids. So these are spherical, oval or cylindrical cells with highly thickened cell wall, as you can see in the diagram itself. And the cell wall is so thick that the lumen is almost obliterated or reduced. Okay. They are mainly found in hard parts of the plant. So of course, wherever they would be present, they being dead and with highly lignified cell wall, wherever they would be present in the plant body, of course, that part of the plant body would become hard. Okay. So hard parts of the plant, but may also be found in soft parts also, like fruit pulps. Okay. So in case they are found in fruit pulps or they are deposited in fruit pulps, such fruit pulps are usually seen to be gritty in nature, or say there is a kind of crispiness that is added to the fruit pulps due to the deposition of sclerids. Do remember that. So now they remain deposited in. Here I have given you a few important examples where sclerids are found. So these examples would be important. Okay, like fruit pulp, like in guava, pear or sapota, that is chiku. Okay. The gritty nature in this fruit pulps or crunchiness to the fruit pulps is provided by the deposition of sclerids. Alright. Next, fruit wall of nuts. In the fruit wall of nuts also rigidity is required, and that is provided by sclerids, like in case of almond, walnut, etc. Seed coat of legumes. Seed coat is also something meant for protection, and that's why it would require its, a little bit of rigidity is required. So that rigidity would be provided by sclerids. Like pea, bean, in them the seed coat possesses sclerid deposition. Last would be leaves of tea. Okay, leaves of tea also have considerable amount of sclerids deposited. So this is all about sclerenchyma tissue as well. So we have discussed in today's class parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma, all of their basic features and functions. I hope all these things are clear to you. So in that case, in the next class, we'll start with complex permanent tissues, that is xylem and phloem.